spirit of the UN values today, because there's no more auspicious day than 24th October. So first of all, I think we are all better off because of the existence of the UN. That much is a guarantee. But lots of work that needs to be done to change and transform the UN. So that is really the big challenge. And I want to all get your attention. I know that you've been parts of various issue-based committees. Some of you have been debating nuclear proliferation. Some have been focused on health. Some on women's rights. Some on other issues. So trade and so on, and security. So overall, you got a sense of the the breadth of the UN system and why it's important. So that, I think, on this day, 24th October, that too the Diamond Jubilee Day, it's very important that all of us reaffirm a faith in the core values underlying the UN and its creation, and that overrides everything else, in the sense that to be good citizens, to be good global citizens, and to be good Indian citizens, we all need to support the greater good of humanity that's laid out in the UN system. So remember, what does the charter, what does the preamble say? We, the peoples of the United Nations. So really, it's up to us, especially all of you young people who have a lot of faith and optimism going forward, to do something to ensure this world body survives, the world body grows, the world body becomes more effective, and is capable of fulfilling these ideals and aspirations that we're talking about. What are the UN values? International cooperation, first and foremost. Some of you in the model UN system do that. You form alliances, coalitions, you work with like-minded countries and come to resolutions. Multilateralism, that's another big pillar of the UN system. The idea that groups of countries together, if not all 193, then smaller groups can come together and solve problems, especially at the regional level. So, the UN supports the work of regional organizations like the African Union, or like the OAS in Latin America, SARC in our region, ASEAN towards East Asia, the European Union. All these are part of a larger project of the UN to promote regional peace and security and economic well-being. So that's the second UN value. The third, of course, is the prevention of violence and human rights abuses, and strengthening of democracy and democratic values. This is another major UN pillar. And last but not least is economic development, economic and social development. So peace and security, human rights, economic development, that's the crux of the and of course now the environmental issues have also emerged in a big way as a major work agenda for the UN system. You have all been doing the MUNs before, and I'm sure those of you who have won today, congratulations to you. But everybody who's participated, how the system works, at least from preparation and from observation. But I will point out one systemic problem that's underlying the or that's weakened the UN over the years, and it is facing a crisis. And that's something that needs your attention, because without it there can be no future for the UN. What is the systemic crisis? The systemic crisis is breakdown of cooperation. International cooperation is the number one pillar of the UN system. And right now we are facing what the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls the Great Fracture. It's not as bad as the Cold War period, 1947 to 1991, but it's getting there in terms of intense rivalry and competition and unwillingness to work collectively, especially by major powers, but also by regional powers. So we are looking at, and those of you who follow current affairs, what is happening in Nagorno-Karabakh in the South Caucasus just now, as I'm talking. There is a war raging between two very small countries, but which are aided and abetted by external powers. And like in many other major conflicts of our time, the UN seems to be paralyzed and unable to respond or to resolve these crises. Um, we are going through one of the worst periods in human history because of the coronavirus pandemic that started in China, and yet we are now faced with the reality that the UN as a whole, as acknowledged by the Secretary General himself, Antonio Guterres, that the UN has collectively failed to respond to the pandemic. And I saw there was a committee on the WHO, and those of you who know that the WHO system is extremely polarized and paralyzed, with the US withdrawing from the WHO and accusing it of becoming a handmaiden of China. And the WHO's own failures have also come to light in the past 8 to 9 months. So just think about it. We have major issues, from the pandemic to wars to climate change, but it seems that the UN is less and less effective and able to respond and meet the aspirations of we the people. So what's wrong? Well, there are structural problems. Our foreign minister, Dr. Jaishankar, just tweeted saying that on the 75th anniversary of the UN, we want reformed multilateralism, by which he means India should have a seat at the high table. There should be a reform of the apex body, which is the Security Council. Um, some of you may know from general knowledge, the last time the Security Council was reformed was 1965. You know, and that was when they added a few non-permanent members, additional non-permanent members. So 55 years is just frozen in time, and nothing much has happened. So the rules and the bureaucratic, red tape that have bogged down the UN from changing and transforming itself, that is something that we need to attack actually. And I want you all, avid model UN participants and enthusiasts, to think about the reform in the real world, not just in competition format. These model events are simply to get you to think about global problems. They are not in an end in themselves. So think about how deep rooted these structural flaws are. There is a veto power wielded by 5 members, and then there's, it's like a second class citizens. There are others who are not being let in, or even if they are let in, they don't have veto power. So you have this hierarchical structure that has defeated the some of the ideals and the values and the principles of the UN system. And it's really a challenge for all of you, because we have been aspirants for a seat at the high table, but have not made it because of these obstacles. So think about, I mean, there are many who are cynical and simply say that the UN is just, a waste of time and a talking shop, and we should just forget it. But that is, I think, a cardinal error, because at the end of the day, if we don't have a universal multilateral body like the UN, then there is no convening every year. What do you mean by international community? International community means membership in the UN. What do we? International community means the annual General Assembly session that happens in September and October every year. We just had the Diamond Jubilee, 75th session, only a few weeks ago. Without that, there is no such thing as as a one world, or a global community at all. And then what that means, if there was no UN, or if people started just pulling out of it or just ignoring it, then you have probably more wars, more pandemics, and even worse climate change than we are seeing today. Just think about the Paris Accord 2015. Even though the US has pulled out of it, the point is we at least have something, a bare minimum agreement among almost all the UN member states that something must be done. If there was no convening institution like the UN at all, and we say everyone, you live in silos and do it in your own regions or in sub-regions, or within individual countries, you would actually have a very scattershot approach, and it would not solve the global governance problems. So What I'm trying to say is that the UN can have a very ordinary and irrelevant future, like the current impasse it is in, or it can have an extraordinary and a brighter future, provided there are significant reforms, which are not necessarily pushed by governments alone. See, this has been the failure of this whole reform movement. Some of you may recall, if you think about the Security Council reform, there is this G4, Japan, Germany, Brazil, and India. And for a long time, for decades now almost, G4 have been actively pushing for the door to be opened for them to become permanent members. Now, the problem with this is that this is largely an effort of the diplomatic corps and of the governments of these countries. There has not been a concerted social movement globally for transforming the UN. There was briefly a moment when it looked like there was a transnational social movement, to at the time when the last Secretary General was elected, or quote unquote elected. Actually, he was selected by key members. And at that time, there was a push to make it more democratic, to make it more open to other candidates who are not nominated by big governments or supported by major powers, and to basically make it really a people's exercise. Uh, it was called 1 for 7 billion. Some of you may remember that campaign. 1 for 7 billion campaign unfortunately could not achieve the goals because they were pushing for a more transparent, open, and competitive process to select the next Secretary General. It did not happen. But other than that, the broader reforms of Security Council or the bureaucratic sclerosis in the UN system, those kind of issues, you have not seen ordinary people agitating or actively organizing and lobbying and petitioning for it. We do have a global transnational movement now against climate change and against carbon emissions and for a greener planet. Uh, Greta Thunberg is just one symbol of that global transnational movement. A young girl who's actually raised the awareness of this problem. But the systemic reform of the UN is still seen as an elite exercise. It does not really come down to ordinary people to be able to launch a major campaign around the world for it, and to come to a consensus on what is required and what kind of principles should we expand, not just Security Council, but also transform the slow and bureaucratic way of working of the UN. So I'm going to stop by saying that, frankly, the onus is on you people, young people who have a whole lifetime ahead of you. But the problems are not abating, but rather growing day by day. These global governance issues, be it migration or climate change or pandemic, nuclear proliferation, wars, inequality, economic and social inequality. So you name it. And by the way, some of you may have noted that the World Bank says that this year, for the first time, the number of people living under extreme poverty has actually increased for the first time. It has been decreasing steadily for the last 30 years. So this year they're saying it has now gone up to almost 800 million people, or maybe more, who are living in less than $1.5 a day. So it used to be only around 600 million until December 2019. So the pandemic has actually added 200 million or more people to the ranks of the extreme impoverished. So great power rivalry and fierce competition has also become a kind of like a macro level problem which is paralyzing the UN. So we need to think about how all these can be transformed. We need a people's movement for it, and I hope that all of you will think about it, not just leave it to our Ministry of External Affairs to fight for it. They're doing their bit, but frankly, the MEA and the governments have been doing it for the last 20, 30 years, and there has been no change. So what we need is something like a new force from beyond the corridors of power, from the hearts and minds of ordinary people, especially young people, intelligent young people like you, who are already keyed into the UN values and UN system, and who understand how the UN works, and who aspire maybe to work for the UN one day and to make a career in international affairs. I'm tasking all of you to think about it. So walking away today with the prizes is great. Just participating is great. But then the real world challenge of sustaining the UN and giving it a better future is out there for all of you. So if you feel motivated by not just to participate in an event and to win prizes, but rather to be able to bring about larger change, then you need to really step up and coordinate. Study the way the campaign to ban landmines happened. Study the way the campaign to abolish nuclear weapons happened. There was a global campaign. Study the way the climate change, the green future, build back better, as they're calling it. That campaign has started, and I would recommend that all of us feel empowered to participate in these kind of things and to use technology to be able to connect with people around the world. Create a people's charter on the basis of which the UN can be reformed. There hasn't been any. This is actually something that's missing, and people probably don't see the urgency of it as much as the climate change, or as maybe trade wars or pandemics. But the point is, the only multilateral means by which we can solve all these big problems is the UN. And if the vehicle itself is flawed, then where are we heading? Where is the world heading? So that's, I think, something that so we need to fix the vehicle, and the UN is the platform or the vehicle to be able to do this. So I would say, we cannot bypass or ignore the UN. We are frustrated by the UN, especially those of us who are not at the high table. We are extremely frustrated and disillusioned and disappointed with the UN. You take a public opinion poll, most people say it's useless and it's ineffective, and it's not even worth paying our members' dues as a country to the UN. But we had to overcome the cynicism. So I'm asking you all today, to not just forget the UN after this event is over and after you walk away with the prizes, but to keep the UN in your hearts and to think about how we can make a difference to resurrect this institution. I just wrote an op-ed yesterday in one of the national newspapers, and I hope it's been circulated to all of you, on why the UN needs a rebirth at 75. I hope I am not going to live long enough to probably see a truly democratized UN, or a peaceful world, or a world where climate change is under control, or where poverty and inequalities are reducing. But you are all much younger, and I really hope that you see yourselves as on the cusp of change, because these structural changes may take 30, 40, 50 years actually. And in the meanwhile, we are assuming that there's no catastrophic collapse in the form of a world war. But that span of time, you have that time. All of you are in high school, just finishing high school, looking at college, looking at higher education, looking at studying international affairs, something like this. We are training our students here at Jindal in these issues and getting them to be involved in these big systemic transformations. So think of yourself as change agents. Don't think that it's up to the governments or to the bureaucrats or to the career civil servants or the politicians to do it. The UN transformation is actually in our hands, we the people of the United Nations. Okay, so best wishes to all of you, congratulations to all of you, especially to the winners. And after the pandemic is over, we hope that you can take your time out to visit Jindal University and see the School of International Affairs, interact with our faculty. Thank you to all my faculty colleagues who have adjudged this wonderful session today. Thank you to Shreya, to Ms. Indu Kaul, to Harnit Kang, and to the entire group of support staff from our side. And God bless you all. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. On behalf of everyone, we thank you for your stimulating speech. Your words are always helpful. Thank you so much. With that, we move along to the verdict of our conference. We'll start with the United Nations Security Council. Under that, the first position goes to Russia. Second position goes to USA. Third position goes to Germany. And individual recognition goes to Sheel Agarwal, Chirag Sharma, Siddharth Rajwade, Ravi Kathak, Suruchi Sharma, and commendation certificate goes to Yemen, Belgium, and Dominican Republic. With that, we move on to the next committee, which is United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. Under that, we have the first position given to Ukraine, Vatsal Biani. Second position to Uganda, Zoya Virani. Third position to UK, Sankalp Verma. The next committee, United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. First position goes to Germany, Alpi. Second position goes to Malaysia, Sagarika S. Third position goes to Canada, Sakshi Vaya. Next committee, International Maritime Organization. First place for the United Kingdom, represented by Utkarsh Bagaria and Ishan Banerjee. Second place to Russia, represented by Divyanshu Chaudhary. Third place, shared with a tie between Greece, represented by Vaibhav Debrewal, Jaya Suryank Lavanya, and South Korea, represented by Satvik Nijon. The next committee is International Atomic Energy Agency. First position goes to Russian Federation, Srinjoy Sen. Second position goes to, it's a tie, India, Natasha Robinson and Nakshatra Soni. Third place goes to People's Republic of China, Ankush Ranjan. The next committee is World Health Organization. The first prize goes to Singapore, second goes to China, and third goes to US. With that, we come to the end and conclude our event for today. Thank you for making the time in your busy schedule to join us here today. I'd like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to each and every participant.
Can you repeat, ma'am, the anecdote result, UNCTAD?
Yes, certainly. The first prize for UNCTAD is Ukraine, Vatsal Biani. Second to Uganda, Zoya Virani. And third to UK, Sankalp Verma. With that, I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to each and every participant, student consultant, faculty chairs. It's been a pleasure to host this event. I wish you all a pleasant day and a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I just have one request to all the winners. I have one request to all the winners. Winners are requested to send in their biodata so that we can put in the press. Kindly small, introduction on the mail so that we can close it. Thank you.
Email ID should be sent the biodata.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Zoya is speaking.
Yes, ma'am, what are we supposed to send exactly? I couldn't hear you very well.
Just your name, which school, which place and all, so that we can, be precise in giving the news write-up.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you all, and big thank you to all the faculty members and everyone. And thank you all, dear children. We look forward to seeing you here, all of you together.
Oh, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm really sorry, but could you repeat what the winners have said?
Sadhib. Sudhir Gayor for India, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is it.
May I just comment? We will send a mail across to all the participants with the winner's name and the prize and everything, and we'll get back to you soon by the end of the day.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So how are we supposed to get our cash prizes?
We will be telling you that over mail. So,
Alright.
okay, by today or by tomorrow, we will be getting all the details.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.